You know, actually it'll be 3 years in December, we moved to an open office environment. And part of the discussion around moving from what we were in traditionally, which were the exterior offices, to this open office environment is for collaboration and for folks to share their ideas and thoughts and opinions and continue to challenge ourselves that yes, this is going well, but how could we make it even better? So I think that setting that environment and that culture as part of your environment is key. The other thing I would say is you have to lead by example. So we as leaders need to constantly be challenging ourselves and as a result show that to our teams that they are constantly thinking of what's next. How can we do it better? The other thing that I would say that I think that is important is competition. Everyone is really stepping up their game. And so taking a look at the cities that you're competing against, or destinations that you're competing against, and making sure that you're staying on top of your game. I think competition forces you to think outside the box.
I think that you have to create a culture, first and foremost, that people are excited about coming to. And that really needs to be all the way from anybody in the C-suite down to the people that are greeting, the receptionists that are greeting the people coming in the door. I think you have to give ownership. It's kind of an old cliche, but you have to have, every person has to feel like they own a piece of the success, and you got to be inclusionary in celebrating that success. So that's where you keep them motivated and engaged and involved and feeling like their position matters, their contribution matters.
I enjoy what I do. And because I enjoy what I do, I don't look at the clock per se.
Yeah.
When I get up in the morning, I want to come to work, and I want people to work with me that want to come to work and make that a part of their lifestyle. The reality is, even with millennials, they may come in at 10 o'clock, but they're still there at 11 p.m.
Yeah.
Or they may be working
Right.
just as many hours. And I think that part of the culture is not to assume that just because someone is not there at 8 a.m. when you're there, that when you're at home at 5 or 6, they're still doing their job. And let's dispel and do away with pointing fingers and focus on getting the job done.
I try to portray what I have learned from others, and I was always best when I was not micromanaged. I was always best when I was given responsibility and held accountable, but had the ability to make some mistakes and fail. And so I think one of the things that I have always tried to do is not manage by fear, but tell people this is your job, you're responsible for it, I'm not going to micromanage you. And if you fail, you're not going to get fired. We have to fail. And so I think what I have learned is watching either brands or people in the industry who can communicate what the goal is and what the end is. And that there's several ways to get there. I really don't think we're the kind of industry that's on a railroad track. We kind of have maps in front of us and compasses, and we can find a lot of ways to get to where we're going. And so it's that motivation of trying to meet a goal collectively with this ability to not be fearful of what's going to happen if you either don't meet the goal or don't do it the right way.
Celebrating the small successes, praising the people for doing the good work. When they make mistakes, instead of going to them and saying, you made a mistake here, going to them and saying, I think I've goofed. I haven't helped you enough understand what it is we need to do. This is what I need you to do. So, constantly, again, creating that atmosphere. I treat my front line folks like I would treat my customers, and I consider my staff to be my customer. If I don't take care of them, then how can I expect them to take care of the folks who are coming to the venue?
Well, a very strong recognition that you have to celebrate creativity, innovation, and really showing a level of proactive efforts. It's not sufficient just to be comfortable. They have to, even though it's not required of you, or it may not be even noticed, we need to be a culture of continuous improvement. And I don't know when you're in a not-for-profit role that sometimes you'll see that embedded in the way, the culture of an organization like ours. Because you may not have shareholders, you don't have share price, you don't have a bottom line particularly, but you still want to motivate the team to feel that they're contributing the same way as if you were. So implementing those same procedures, philosophies, and approaches to our business as if you were a for-profit is probably what I've tried to emphasize as much as I can. And I find that people are more excited by that, because because now they realize that what they have to do every day is meaningful and it can make a difference, even if you're not seen in the form of actual transactions like you did if you were in a for-profit company.
So I think a really important thing that reflects positively on the organization, on my role as a leader in the organization, is the ability for our staff people to go on, whether they go on and move up in our organization or they go on and move forward in another organization in a leadership role. I think that speaks really highly about our role as an organization. We're trying to cultivate leadership. And whether they stay with us or whether they go somewhere else, I'm proud of them. I'm proud of them if they go on to be a CEO of another organization. And I think what you have to do is you have to incentivize them. You have to make it abundantly clear that you're supportive of them to do that, to go to the next role, to pick a leadership, to kind of think a little bit outside of the box, to really you can't be dedicated to an organization for 100 years. It's just not realistic. But what I expect people to do is to give their all to our organization, and then if there's a role for them higher up in the organization, that's great, or if there's a role for them in another organization that takes them to the next step, make sure that they know that, make sure that they're appreciated, and make sure that they know that there's support for them to take the next step in their career, whatever that may be.
I think you've got to give people a lot of area to own. I think one of the biggest mistakes leaders make is they say, I'll tell you what to do, then come back for more instructions. I think what a leader has to do is saying, this is the area that you play in. You own this. And as long as you play in here, you make the decisions and I'll back you up. Now, when you have to go over here, let's you and I talk. And I've tried to practice that. I used to look at myself and say, I'm not a very good leader because I'm not hands-on, I'm not questioning what you're doing every minute of the day. And as I've gotten older, I've looked back and say, but I had people that said, he trusts me, he believes in me, and they gave their best. And so I think the other thing I think you have to do is constant recognition. I think when someone does something well, let them know. You don't have to be the leader to take credit for things. I try and find any instance I can to celebrate somebody for what they've done.
We regularly talk to our team about eliminate a stupid rule, or what really would make a difference. And usually it's pretty low-hanging fruit. You want to wear your flip-flops to work. We live in California, so you want to wear your flip-flops to work on a Friday. That might be a little over the edge because our hoteliers get a little iffy about that. But we do have Jeans Friday, and we do have flex schedules, and we do have opportunities to volunteer in the community to give back. And those opportunities on work time are really important to millennials. It's really important to some of our more senior generations to be able to share their knowledge and to be able to interact and feel valued, and most certainly they are. They bring some great experience to the table. So it's really cool to see people sharing and teaching and talking about what the different values are. Ultimately, the core value that they have is that they believe in what we do and what that mission is, and so we work from there.
We focus on the fact that within 5 years, the millennials will be the largest workforce that exists that we'll be working with or for. When we entered the industry, you must wear a suit, you must be on time, you must work all these hours.
Yeah, right.
And millennials are quite frankly looking for a balance immediately. We think about a balance as we're looking at perhaps retiring.
Yeah.
And we have to change our philosophies, and that means everything from especially the creative folks coming in at hours that work best for them, because they're still in the office at 9 or 10 o'clock when I leave. So let's not be too stringent with our philosophies as to what is the recipe for success. Let's make sure that we set the office up to really focus on the goals and try to find ways to make sure that this is an environment that, quite frankly, everyone enjoys. And I think the most interesting thing as we focus on the needs of millennials is that it's interesting to see other generations finally drinking the Kool-Aid and enjoying an atmosphere, whereas we're putting the customer, the employee, and the employee's personal lives first, because I think at the end of the day we get a more productive employee.
Regarding the millennials, what we found is that even though they have their own way to see life, once they understand what we want to accomplish, number one, and number two, you provide the space, the recognition that they need, recognize how they work, recognize what they want to achieve. Then they jump in and really start working with you. And I have to tell you, they are very responsible. We have a lot of things that have been achieved, and especially they are very innovative, and the kind of ideas they're bringing to the table are helping us tremendously.